Yes. Castworthy Podcast. Turning back to you after weekend off, Mother's Day weekend. Hope all the mothers had a great day. Back with my two good men here. Big Steve, last of a dying breed on the Twitter machine, and the VP of Research. Got on a Monday shirt on a Sunday. Clearly didn't wash his buttons since last week. How you guys doing, brother?
Doing good, man. VP clearly either his Mondays are that bad that he has to prep the day before, or just some foresight to what tomorrow going to look like.
Yeah, pretty gloomy already for him. Got the Monday shirt on the Sunday. Looking upset already. VP, how you doing over there, buddy?
I'm good. Chill. Ready.
I see you're following the trend of the uh, the green. That's like the new trendy color
I love
for
green.
for spring into summer.
I love green. It's one of my favorite colors,
I
actually.
like I like green too, but it's like I guess it's like a thing now. Like that green and pink. No,
You've been anti-trends lately. What's going on with you, man?
I'm
Sound
not.
like the sound
I'm
like the
not.
old get off my lawn guy.
I'm not anti-trend. I just bought a shirt that color from Polo. That's how I know it's that's how I know it's trendy. Is because I had the conversation last week about it.
Something for your nice beach summer wear.
Yeah, man. You know, once the sun gets into this caramel skin of mine, colors start to look pretty good on it. You know,
Yeah,
it's a bonus of having just the right amount of melanin.
I can dig that. I can dig that. What's the weather like for y'all down there?
It's beautiful, man. Hasn't been too hot. We're talking about 80s. Like yesterday was like 81, I want to say 81. Out by the beach, at least it was like 81. Inland probably a little hotter, 85ish, 86, but still nice, man. It hasn't hit that scorching hot 90 something where you get out the car and you regret it type shit.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually live outside a little bit in the day and in the evening because it's been breezy. So really, really good weather. Surprisingly, this late in the year, May that is. But we'll see, man.
Yeah, it's currently 67 here, but still feels like 60. As you see,
Damn.
I still have a hoodie on. Uh,
You niggas better get Thorda Greenberg or whatever her name is on the fucking on the phone, because something is wrong.
Something is clearly going on. It is a nice, cool 66 outside, and it feels a little cooler than that.
What's the first
So
day of summer? Isn't the first day of summer like right around the corner? I think it's like
it's
June. Is it June 25th?
it should be coming soon.
No, I think it's May.
It
May
should be coming
something.
soon for
June
sure.
21st.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
must be
June
an up
20.
north thing.
Yeah,
It
you
usually feels
guys
like summer starting in March down here.
right, exactly. In Florida, school ends in May, so maybe you had it mixed up with that.
Hmm.
That's technically summer start time for kids at least when I was younger. Shit, that's when the basketball hoop got rolled out every single day. You
Hmm.
wake up early, not tired during the summer versus during school, knocking on niggas' windows at 7 in the morning, like, yo, wake up, we about to ball. Be outside for 12, 13, 15 hours just fucking playing basketball and doing wild ass shit, man. Good old days. Now these kids just sit on a damn laptop and tablets, shit like that.
Can you blame them? It ain't safe outside, man. Don't feel too safe outside.
At least in our neighborhoods, it ain't.
Yeah, yeah.
Because now it's not. Now it's not only us killing us. Now we got people coming from outside to kill us in our neighborhoods, as we saw yesterday in Buffalo.
Yeah, let's talk about it, man. Sad day there, man. Mass shooting in Buffalo. Uh Community of black folks. Apparently white young man, 18-year-old gentleman,
A
uh
terrorist.
terrorist. Yes, white male terrorist. Came into the black neighborhood and community and Buffalo with a assault rifle and shot multiple people. And it's pretty. And then had it on live, had it on Twitch, showing the whole thing. Supposedly there was a manifesto, about how he was going to do it, and you had a retired police officer in there as a security officer, shot him, didn't do anything because of the body armor. I mean, let's get into it, man. First of all, rest in peace to those that lost their lives. But what are your thoughts on this, Steve?
13 shot, 11 were black, 10 died. And yeah, I mean, it was, and I hate to make it about this so quickly, but it was a right-wing supporter, wrote a manifesto that looked like he was following orders from Tucker Carlson on Fox News. Started recording when he was in the parking lot in his vehicle, and kind of you could see him talking himself into it. No better time than the present. Guess you got to get right to it. Like he's an athlete or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Ballsy fucking starts recording it, and comes into a poor neighborhood, predominantly black neighborhood, and decides he's gonna let loose. And all of those things that take place. I mean, we live in America, so we've seen it before and it happened. But what the common theme here with these, to me, is that these guys are handled with care, and somehow with assault rifles, after having shot multiple individuals, including a retired police officer, they are somehow apprehended without incident.
VP?
Yeah, man. I mean, everything Steve said is right. The only thing I would take issue with is when he says, not sure if I want to get into it this early or however he phrased it or whatever. When he brings up like the Tucker Carlson aspect and things like that. And I think that's part of the problem, right? Is that, when you see the media talk about this kind of thing, I'm it's not going to surprise me if when tomorrow you hear about this manifesto, they call it, racially charged, racially tinged, and they use these euphemisms instead of just saying he's fucking racist, he's a white supremacist, he had nigger painted on the gun.
Right.
The manifesto talks about how he believes in what's called replacement theory, essentially meaning that blacks, Jews, and other non-white European people are replacing whites. They're basically being shipped in to replace them, and he goes on and talks about things like how black people aren't as smart as white people, and he has like all these links that go to these bogus ass websites that show this research on how black people aren't intelligent and that kind of thing like that. But people will come out and say stuff like, oh, racially charged, racially tinged, and whatever other euphemism they can think of, instead of just calling it is what it is. This was a fucking hate crime, terrorist attack on black people because the guy is a racist white supremacist, and I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention that the guns, like I continue to say this shit, over and over, but I mean, like, mass shootings are almost as American as apple pie, basically, where we allow people to have unfettered access to weapons of war, to the same type of weapons I had when I was deployed to Iraq. You have those on the streets in Buffalo, and then this guy has body armor. You always hear people talk about, good guy with a gun, which is mostly bullshit. But at least in this case, this guy was a police officer trained in using a weapon, threat assessment, that kind of shit like that, right? He sees the threat, goes after him, but the guy is wearing body armor, and so what his 9mm 45, whatever he had, does nothing, and then he himself ends up being killed in the shooting. So, the guns, it's a problem, man.
Yeah, you guys, everything you guys said was spot on. outside of the fact that this guy being from Buffalo, not necessarily the guns being on the street, but I got what you were saying. The him having access to this rifle. He's 18 years old, no less. The other question for me is, when as a nation, after all of the torture and torment that non-white people of this nation have had to go through over the years, whether it was the the camps in the 40s, whether it was the Mexicans getting assaulted and beaten in California daily, the racism and slavery that we endured as a people. When is this country ever going to treat racism the same way it does anything else?
Never. Never. We got our fix. We got our black president. We now have our black vice. We have our black Supreme Court. We have our black Speaker of the House. We should be good. That should hold us over for another 100 or 200 years. They will never do it.
But I get your point though.
Yeah, I mean it's just we can't get the protection from when we get racially targeted by the police. We have these hate groups that are still around that are being allowed to exist. All of the RICO charges that have been levied on our people and those of other immigrant communities. Why has that never been levied on the Ku Klux Klan? Why is there still incorporated hate groups that are operating in this country?
I don't know that you can stop 100% stop that. It's going to be there. But there should be a message sent, right? And so I think partially, right, in locations like Florida, you had we've seen now twice during the day highly populated areas where two separate neo-Nazi groups have decided to show up and quote unquote protest. They're spitting at people. They're banging on people's windows, which is not a protest in my eyes, right? Here, 5 minutes from my house, 3 minutes from VP's house, right? Disney, right? None of that was addressed at Disney. They were flying Nazi flags. One woman put it up on the fucking Disney sign simply because Disney spoke out against the anti-gay law that was passed, or bill that was signed here in Florida by DeSantis. And the thing about it is they're not even addressing it. DeSantis came out about the people that were by us and said, well, we're not going to let these people we're not going to let you spin it to make it seem like it's some type of political thing or something like that, right? And versus just coming out and saying, hey, it's not a political thing and I don't support this, right? Because he doesn't want to lose those votes. And I think, again, and that's a Florida thing, but I think as you bubble it up, you're not getting you're not getting anyone that's saying that, right? You get someone that might smack a hand and say, oh, well, that's a bad thing, right? Like a Biden or any other president, right? Well, that's a bad thing, but where's the action behind it, right? We got action for Asians. There was an actual law passed for Asians.
Yeah. And I think to the larger point, you're right. Our government hasn't shown that they're willing to take that step to really, really make an example out of these people. Like we said, there are still hate organizations that are being allowed to incorporate. They're being allowed to organize freely. It's sad, and I will say this, man. I know VP's anti-guns, and access to especially large capacities and all of that stuff. And Steve, you've been an owner of one for a long time, and you have your views on it. I've kind of been in the middle. I will say this, man. I think if anything else, while the laws are the way they are, black people need to be armed at this point in time. Like VP has the good guy with the gun theory. I just think at some point in our communities, not saying we need to take things into our own hands and be vigilantes out here, but I mean, if the government won't protect us, then who will?
Let me answer the last question first here. When you ask like why is this kind of thing still or not why is it still happening, but why is nothing done about it, right? And the answer to that is like look at us as a people. I don't mean black people, I mean like as a nation, right? Last week we saw southern states celebrating like Confederacy Day or some bullshit like that it was called, right? And when you think of the Confederacy, right? Like we like this is part of the reason with what's the problem with not teaching history, right? Because you know, I think a lot of people think of the Confederacy now as being like, you know, oh, it's just the southern states. No, that's not what it is. It's the southern states that broke away from the United States and became their own country and then went to war with the United States, you know, enemy combatants, killed Americans, you know what I mean? And they have a day memorializing those people. You know, when EJ says, you know, how come, you know, nothing's been done about the KKK or whatever, right? Fucking Nathan Bedford Forrest, the guy who founded the KKK, has statues all around this country. Has statues in the Tennessee Capitol. Had a statue in the Capitol in DC. It got removed after the whole thing happened with George Floyd and all the protests and stuff like that, right? So, I mean, we're literally celebrating these people. You know what I mean? And it's why nothing happens, because the people who believe that shit are the same people who are in power. You know what I mean? So when people put up bills and vote on, let's remove these statues, you know, you know, commemorating, you know, people from the Confederacy, commemorating people who are part of the KKK, that those things fail, right? And you would think that politically that would be a bad thing. Like, man, you know, like if somebody was like, you know, like, hey, we got to get rid of the statue of Bin Laden, and people wasn't for it, like, you know, that shit would be like political suicide, right? But for racist shit, it's all good. You know what I mean? And it kind of comes back to that. I don't know if it was Chappelle who said it, but you know, I remember a comedian was like, you know, it's all right if it's all white. You
That's
know what I
Chris
mean?
Rock.
Chris Rock, there you go. And that's just, you know, what it is there with that kind of shit. That's the answer to why nothing happens, is because the people who stop any progress or anything like that, they believe in this kind of shit, you know?
So in short, America has not grown at all.
No. And part of the problem is that, right, when you look at, you know, like Reconstruction and stuff like that, like if you compare our country to like Germany, right, after Hitler and the Nazis and stuff like that, those people were put on trial, they served time in prison. You know what I mean?
Reparations.
The ones they can get their hands on. Some of them were executed, you know, that kind of shit. They passed laws to try to wipe out, you know, not Nazi ideology. I mean, you can't get rid of thought, right? But they tried. You know, they passed laws that, like in Germany, you can't name a kid Adolf. Like it's almost like here. You know how when there's a bad hurricane, they remove it from the list of names, right? So that's why there's never been a Hurricane Katrina since 2006. There's never been a Hurricane Andrew since 1992, right? They did that in Germany. You know what I mean? Like, you can't name kids Adolf or Hitler, you know, because they don't want people, you know, sympathize with that kind of shit. With that kind of shit, you know, you could be arrested for wearing like Nazi paraphernalia and shit like that. You know what I mean? But over here, we celebrate these people, you know, and obviously I'm saying we, like, you know, America, I don't mean black people or whatever, but you know, these people fought against the country and then became members of Congress, governors, presidents, you know what I mean? And so this is why this shit is the way it is still in this country, is because we've never dealt with it.
I think in time, right? And it sucks that it's going to take time. Probably not in our day, maybe in late years of our days, but in the generation of our children, we'll see some change slightly. Let me tell you why I say that. Historically, to your point, VP, these people became members of Congress and of the government and things like that, right? Seat holders, stuff like that. Everything was locker room behind closed doors stuff, right? And now we're seeing that these people are now they're so blatantly open about the shit that they support. Um, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anything else that happens to come out from here on out, TikTok, etc. Where people will soon have so much visibility to it that they'll be able to make some better choices. Now, racists, there's tons of them. There's lots of racists and sexists and chauvinistic people out there and things like that. But I think in time, right, we're seeing the change in culture. We're seeing Black culture having an effect and an impact on a lot of people. We're seeing white people like a JJ Redick who, spoke out on First Take about, racial undertones openly on the show more ever than what Stephen A has ever said, in addressing a direct statement from a white person that clearly was directed towards the lack of rights that he felt the black man had that he was addressing, Draymond Green. So I think with, for example, Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? She, we're seeing videos and tons of videos, and people, the internet keeps history, right? And people are gonna dig that shit up. So I think when it comes time in the future, we talk about people holding seats for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, right? When it comes time to get some of these people out of there and new people to go in, the hope is that, this next generation will have enough ammunition to say, hey, remember when you were on Twitter saying it's okay, it wasn't a bad thing, or, condemn, like I saw condoning. I saw someone, let me tell you something I saw yesterday. That someone posted in regards to the Buffalo shooting. The response to how it was okay is 2 seconds. I had it here. Oh, still many predominantly white January 6ers being unlawfully held as political prisoners without due process. DOJ is coercing plea deals and threatening nonviolent January 6ers with life in prison for seditious conspiracy, a crime for which no American has ever been convicted and is so rare federal sentencing guidelines don't ever cover it. All this for strolling through the doors that were open for them. Meanwhile, DOJ lies to grand jury and is withholding evidence 16 months later. Like, that's how you're justifying, and that's how you're countering the fact that there was a racially driven or a terror attack yesterday that was targeting Black people specifically, and that's the type of thing I say, right? So the internet keeps history. So hopefully, if someone posts, likes, reposts, retweets, comments on something like that 10, 20, 15 years from now, if they are trying to run for some type of office, that these kids will be able to say, hey, retweet, remember when you did this? Because we're seeing this shit come up all the time for people now.
So let me say this first on that tweet or whatever message that
It's
you
bullshit.
just read. No, it is bullshit, but the whole condition what is it? Seditious conspiracy thing, saying no one's been convicted of it. They actually have. They have 2 of those guys who are with the Oath Keepers who pled guilty to it. That's one. But that's neither here nor there. Let me just go to the larger point that you made. I wholeheartedly disagree with everything that you said, and here's why. I used to think like you, right? Thinking like good people gonna come around, and then once you have some of these like old folks who die off, just because of that's how life works, and these young people are gonna get in there, and we're gonna make some structural changes, right? That's not how the game works. right? And what I mean by it is that you look at the way that we do things in this country. We do things by voting, right? And with gerrymandering, it's only gotten worse, right? And the Republicans in 2010, when they won all those seats in state legislatures around the country, they gerrymandered the hell out of those states that they won. And then in 2010, because they still sit in power from those gerrymandered seats that they took care of in 2010, are gerrymandering them even further, right? And then we say, well, okay, people are going to sue. And what do they use to sue? They use things like the Voting Rights Act. The Supreme Court, since 2012, in a case called Shelby County versus Holder, Shelby County, Alabama versus Eric Holder, who was the Attorney General, the Supreme Court has been decimating the Voting Rights Act. I mean, the shit is as worthless as the paper is written on at this point, right? They weakened it in Shelby County. They weakened it even more in a case called Burvanovich out of Arizona. And then they had another case which also came out of Arizona, which they weakened it for. The Voting Rights Act is almost non-existent at this point, right? And so you continue to have this assault on voting. So now you've gerrymandered the districts to make it to where you can't lose, right? Then you put up barriers to vote, right? You gotta, walk on glass, swim through lava, stand in line for 12 hours. And then if you manage to make it to the ballot, now they're changing the people who count the votes. So your point on, we're going to get decent people in there who see that this is some bullshit, and they come in and change the structure of how things work in this country, be it, guns, how history's taught, penalties for racists, terrorists, all that kind of thing like that. I think that's a fantasy. I just don't see it happening.
Well, not to mention, we also now are voting not to get the best person. We're voting seemingly always for the lesser of two evils, because when we actually do get our person, they allow the traditions of politics to hamstring them to do anything that actually does anything for the masses. But it's another story.
Well, I hope that trend that you're speaking of, EJ, I think that was more of a, because we didn't have that with Obama, right? It wasn't the lesser of two evils there. And I guess with Trump and Hillary, it depends how you look at it, right? But definitely with Trump and Biden, and I don't know that going into it, Biden looked like the lesser of two evils, in any way, at least to me. But I think people are starting to feel that way, right? And I think the way I thought of it with Biden was he's the one that can beat Trump, and we talked about it multiple times on this podcast. We talked about it. Larry said it, same thing, right? We thought there were other people that could have probably served America better from the Democratic Party, but the one person who had the best shot of beating Trump was Biden, and it turned out he did, right? He won, so I don't know that one was truly a lesser of two evils type of thing. And then going into the next presidency, who knows what that's going to look like, when what the options are. But when there's so much, what I don't like, right? And one thing I don't like about and sort of talking to this is, I don't like when they go into, when they're doing like the debates, right? The Democratic debates between the candidates, because they're not debating strictly policy. Now they're digging up so much dirt on each other, and they're making it public knowledge. And that's not just hurting each other. That's hurting the whole policy. You see these videos and people using that as ammunition to say, the Democrats are a shit show, and to me, it's just so unorganized, the Democratic Party. And, you can't get one or two people on board with certain things, and now you're not only are you fighting an uphill battle, but the battle almost doesn't exist.
Yeah.
The problem with the debates is that the debates have changed, right? So if you go back in political history, right, what used to happen was you had organizations that had debates. So you would see like League of Women Voters. They would have a debate, and then the candidates would show up. They would have one, for Democrats, one for Republicans. The media would cover it, and they would talk about issues concerning women. And then maybe the NRA would have a debate, and then a bunch of Republicans would show up, and less Democrats, if they had one for Democrats or whatever. But you get my point, right? Some environmental group like the Sierra Club or something like that would have a debate, and they would talk about issues about environmental policy, right? And then you would hear those things, and you would read about them in the newspaper, maybe see it on your evening news or whatever, and then you would make your decision about that. The teachers union would probably hold a debate, talk about education policy and that kind of thing, right? And then you can kind of see where the candidates stand on issues. But now the media has all the debates, right? ABC holds a couple of debates, CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, they all hold their own debates, and it's journalists who ask questions, and they ask the questioning based on polling. So it's like, oh, Joe Biden and Bernie are in the lead in the polls, so they're going to get the most questions. And then this candidate who you may like, right? Not like necessarily like Elizabeth Warren because she was more popular, but like just for the sake of this example, let's take like Marianne Williamson, who was a fucking disastrous candidate, but she was a candidate. You may like her. She may only get two questions during the whole debate because she's polling at 1%. Or somebody like Tulsi Gabbard, who's a total fucking hypocrite. She's just a big piece of shit.
Don't talk about her like that.
She is. She's a grifter. And she left politics. She left her seat. She left her seat in Hawaii, right, when she ran for president. And since leaving the Congress, she's now a contributor on Fox News, right? I don't have a problem with that. The problem is that Fox News brings her on to be the Democrat who talks shit about, who basically talks like a Fox News host, just with the D behind their name. You see what I'm saying? And she's doing it as a fucking cash grab. That's it. You know what I mean? She's a fucking piece of shit, yo. But anyway.
Well, she does technically have a D behind her name, and it ends in D. Gabbard, Gabbard.
Anyway, but so to this point, like the media controls the narrative here, and they ask a bunch of like gotcha questions and shit like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Steve, you claim to be a Magic fan, but you're wearing a Heat hat, and it's like, oh shit, let's pile on them, right? And then it's like, EJ, you say you like the color blue, but your shirt is green. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? And then nothing gets resolved. I don't watch debates, and you guys know I'm a political junkie. I watch all the debates, right? I don't watch any debate and come away feeling smarter than I was before the debate started.
Right.
Well, there's a bunch of rehearsed attack lines and shit like that,
I don't think, but and that's what we always talk about, right? That's always my thing, is that when these people are debating or anything, right? It's not you that's the person that matters. And that's not to slight you in any way. You, Eric, you people that took this in school, you guys are trained professionals in this, right? You're not the ones that need to hear this stuff. It's the people that actually decide, you know what, we need to change in America, but they don't know shit about shit. So let me turn on this debate and let me see what's going on. And you got fucking Kamala, however you guys want to say it, coming for Joe's neck and head, right? And then Joe going back at her, or somebody going back at her, and then these are the two that get selected to run the country. Like optics is what I'm saying, right? It just looks bad. It looks terrible, and you're like, all right, well, you had two motherfuckers. If you go back to the debates they had, look at what she said about him, And now she's trying to say, well, we need to support him. And look what he said about her and how she was, running California and everything that had to do with the police and shit like that. And now, well, let's try and dedicate some money and pass some policies and talk about policy for for law enforcement, right? And stuff like that. And it makes the Democrats just look bad. So it makes it difficult to support a group like that. It makes it extremely difficult.
Yeah,
I hear what you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I don't want to belabor on this too much, but you guys said a lot of great points, and we diving into the politics a little bit on that. But again, to our original topic of discussion, rest in peace to those that lost their lives in Buffalo, and we definitely send our prayers and thoughts to the community of Buffalo and anyone affected. But I want to get into some old things that we missed because we didn't pod last week. Just really quickly, we talked about this a lot, and I think this is one of the pod's more favorite comedians, especially as Steve is concerned. Dave Chappelle attacked on stage, man. I know everyone's talked about this and beat the horse down, but we didn't give our opinion on it. Not to the public, at least. So we talked about this. We potted about this immediately after the Will Smith Chris Rock thing, and here we are with Dave Chappelle. Steve, I know you're cooking to say something on this. What was your thoughts on this? How do you feel about it still? What are you thinking?
I mean, we said it. We said that it was gonna cause this type of thing after Will Smith was attacked. I'm sorry, after Chris Rock was attacked by Will Smith. We saw that coming. There's so many layers to this shit. This is like an onion, right? When you peel back the skin of it, right? Peel back the skin, you just got a guy who came on and attacked, Dave Chappelle. But as you get into it and you start to think about where were they, it was the Netflix festival, and then you start to think about, what could have potentially caused this person to make this decision, and did it have to do with his jokes and his thoughts towards the LGBTQ plus community, or what caused this, right? And I don't know that they've gotten that or released what it was from the individual, but when you look at it as a whole, this situations like this are going to make it really challenging in the future for entertainers and entertainment and people who like to go to shows like this, because you're going to have to start, you have no choice but to start thinking about safety first. And the access that we have right now, when we talk about it with athletes too, we got people sitting on the front row and charging the floor. We got people sitting on the front row at comedy shows and concerts, where if they really, it takes 2 seconds for them to hop on the stage. And we've seen it happen multiple times in hip hop, right? And it, so I just think something like this it's gonna really, I think we all suffer from it. We're all gonna suffer from it because there's gonna be so many rules and stuff like that. I don't know, that this was something that was caused because of the Will Smith incident, but I can absolutely understand somebody who associates the two.
VP?
Nah, I definitely agree with what Steve said there. When this first happened, I immediately drew a connection between Will Smith and then this. And then as some of the facts started coming out, the fact that he had a weapon or a replica weapon that was like a knife or something, and I'm thinking who the fuck goes to a comedy show like that? You know what I mean? So it almost makes me wonder if this was premeditated,
and how he got in.
Right. But then at the same time, regardless of it being regardless of it being premeditated or not, you can't discount the Will Smith factor, and this sense of you know, when there's something that's said that you don't like, that, you know, and you specifically have to go and, like, you know, resolve this issue, or you know, take some kind of action, or something like that, you know. And
Where were all these people when Trump was in office?
right, right, you know. So uh, so yeah, I mean, it's a tough situation, man, but like Steve said, you know, it's only going to make it worse for people who want to go to shows, who want to go to events, and just be entertained, you know, for enjoyment or whatever, you know. And you know, you can see the crowd being pushed back further, you know. I wouldn't be surprised if this shit continues to happen with comedians. You go to a a comedy show, and it's like, you know, at a movie theater where you're watching it on the screen, and he's like somewhere else performing it, like it's being streamed into you. You know what I mean? And
Man.
so I mean, I don't think it would get that far, you know, but that's kind of a stretch. But you know, at some point these people got to think about their own safety, you know.
I mean, we kind of did have that, you know, more so for the pandemic when people started doing the virtual shows. But you make an excellent point, and this is one of those matters where we're able to laugh now, but had there been some actual damage done, like we said before, you know, had Will Smith knocked Chris Rock out and seriously injured him, you know, that would have been a moment outside of it already being as nasty and ugly as it was. That would have been a moment that would, you know, stain people's lives and thoughts for a long time. If this dude came on stage and really stabbed Dave Chappelle or really gravely injured him, you know, we would, you know, it would be pretty nasty, man. And I agree. You know, we obviously can't say what this person's motivation was. We can't blame one event of another onto this, but you could definitely make correlations of it. You know what I mean? Like, people, that this has always been an issue. Like, if you've gone to comedy shows, you know there's always tight security. It's not the first time that we've ever seen people jump on stage, but you can't help but think that this emboldened someone to do what they did. Again, we haven't heard much after this dude took the ass whooping of his life. But yeah, it's you can't help but correlate it somehow, some way. And who the hell was running security? I mean, Jesus.
Right. And now you got to think about from a comedian standpoint, when a heckler starts, now they have to be on guard, and that can change your whole cadence of how you deliver your jokes. That can make your show not as good as it has been or was going to be. Now you have to, if you walk out and you see somebody, you know, you got like the DL Hughley's, right? DL Hughley would point out somebody and eat their ass the fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Sitting close into the front row and stuff. Now, if that's something that you've done in the past where you walk out, you scan the crowd for somebody like, oh, I'm gonna come to that, they may not be comfortable doing that anymore. You know what I'm saying? So it might change somebody's whole delivery and how they have to, you know, how they have to do their job, make their money. Shout out though to your point, you said he got the ass whooping of his life. Shout out to Jamie Foxx and Busta Rhymes. They were the two notable names that were allegedly seen placing hands on this dude, in addition to many others, but those were the two notable names. And yeah, dude got an ass whooping. He absolutely deserved it. Luckily, Dave Chappelle's not like a small frail guy, because he kind of was able to take the hit, you know. And who knows that had he not been able to kind of brush it off and push him off of him, and had Chappelle ended up on his back, to your point, EJ, it could have been worse. He might have been able to pull out his little homemade bayonet and try to, you know, jig him in the side or something like that, or worse. And you know, you talked about security. It's the quality of work these days is just so bad, you know. It's so terrible. Like, let me tell you something. I walked into theme park recently, and I won't say the park, but I carry my little my Merce, my little satchel, which keeps things in it for me, because, you know, when you wear, you know, swim trunks, the pockets ain't deep for one, and you don't want to keep your keys and shit, wallet and whatever else, right? And normally if I'm not going to a place like that, you know, that's where, you know, other things are held at times. But anyway, I walk into the theme park and I go to the bag check line where, you know, they're checking women's bags and baby bags and strollers and shit like that. And the dude was like, "Oh no, you're good." I'm like, "But I got a bag here." You know what I'm saying? You don't know what could have been in that bag, you know? And the line was a little bit long behind me, so I kind of get where he was probably like, "Ah, this guy doesn't look like a threat. He looks like a nice guy, gray hairs in his beard. He's here with his family." You know what I'm saying? But that's how you disguise. That's how people disguise shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's here with his family, his wife and his son. You know, he doesn't look like he's here to start any trouble. That's how shit happens.
And unfortunately, there's so many contributing factors to that. You know, if he was white, you were black, and you know the times that we're in now, is this going to be the dude who gets mad that I stopped him for doing my job? COVID, they ain't really paying me that much anyway. I don't really want to be up on this dude. You know, there's so many contributing factors to why even just the sensitivity as a nation, so many different things that we do differently, that we accept, that we we turn an eye to, that we didn't in the past. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would know back in the day, hey, you going to a theme park, you might get cavity searched in here. You know, but it ain't like that now.
And shit, I'll do you one better, Steve. When we went on our last fucking cruise that we did before COVID shut the world down, somebody who was traveling in our party, you know, they put the person's backpack through the little X-ray machine before you get on the ship, you know, and this person had a fucking knife in there. Now they said, "I forgot the shit was in there," you know, whatever. Security huddles up, you know. I guess they're talking like, you know, what should we do, you know, da da da. And then they tell this person, "Hey, we're gonna let you keep this, but you got to promise to keep it in your room." And and you know, he was like, "All right." And we're all thinking like,
It's funny you say that, because I went on a cruise once and it was similar to that, but you know how you're not supposed to bring alcohol or whatever.
yeah,
And one dude had a big ass bottle. I think it was Kettle One. It was Kettle One. Big ass bottle of Kettle One, and the dude takes it out of his bag and he's like, "You know, you're not supposed to bring this." And he's like, "Yeah, oh man, I didn't know." He's like, "All right, well, you can bring it on, but you got to bring it to he told him he had to bring it somewhere and check it, and then he can get it at the end of the cruise." Like, that's what he told him. And I'm like, okay, yeah, we live by the honor system now in America.
right. You know, like
Nasty.
you could take this knife on board. Nobody's supposed to have weapons. But you could just promise to keep it in your room.
Right.
Promise. I'm not gonna stab anybody. Like, it's all good. You can trust
Right.
me. I'm your
Scouts honor.
man. You know, 10 grand. You know, don't worry. It's all good.
Scouts honor, right? Nasty work, man. But yeah, wanted to cover that because we missed that last week being out. Moving to something lighter, you know, VP mentioned it earlier. I felt like it was a little shot at you, Steve, about how
What
you
else?
say
What else is new?
about how we've known for the most part that you've been an Orlando Magic fan, but you do have a Miami Heat hat on. This is the second show in a row that you've done that. So I don't know. VP came at you earlier, but NBA playoffs are going down. We got some winners, some advancements. We got some game sevens today. Steve, your prediction is kind of shot right now because
How so?
Philly lost.
You have Philly and Golden State.
Golden
Only
State's
one
still
of them
there.
alive.
You know, Philly's not there anymore though.
That's a 50% chance.
Your prediction shot. 50% is not 100.
I still chose Golden State to win it all.
True, but you know Philly's not going to be there. What are your thoughts, man? VP, we'll let you have your moment here, being that the Heat advanced and took care of business. What you thinking, man?
Yeah, I mean, I went. You know, obviously, I went Miami and Phoenix. You know, that's still holding for right now. Man,
Wait. Before you start, because I know this is going to be long. Let me just remind people that Miami was the heart pick, and your basketball pick was Milwaukee. Go.
Right. However, you threw that shit in there to try to, don't pick with your heart. You know, don't be a fanatic. Which, that's what fan is short for. You know. So, but I'm Miami. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, I actually thought that Philly, I'm surprised they didn't get swept, to be honest. And I actually only think that they won game 3 because they tried to pull that slick shit with Embiid saying he was out. And then last minute he's playing, like right before, I guess, whatever deadline there is before you got to announce any roster move changes or whatever, And so we just didn't have a chance to game plan for him. That was game 3. Game 4, I mean, I felt like we defended Embiid well, but we didn't expect Harden to go off, And then after that, the shit was a wrap, So I think if we had a chance to game plan for Embiid, we probably could have took them in 5 games, I think. But regardless, we're in the Eastern Conference Final, man, and shout out to Jimmy Butler doing what stars are supposed to do, elevating their game, averaging mid-20 points during the season, kick it up to 30 points in the playoffs. Shoot.
I know a guy that used to do that in the 90s regularly.
Yeah, Pippen, man, he was a beast. But
nasty.
But nah, yeah. I mean, but that's what stars are supposed to do. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to downgrade your scoring, man. And I'm surprised Doc Rivers didn't get fired.
Yeah.
Nah, I don't think they want Doc there. The rumors are that LeBron had planned on hiring Doc in LA. And I think that the 76ers are trying to get like some kind of trade where you trade for the coach kind of thing and maybe get a pick out of LA or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Or at least money.
At
least money. Because Philly needs the money.
That'll be nasty.
But as far as today, man, like Milwaukee is I mean, obviously they don't got Chris Middleton.
They don't need
but I still think they should have had enough to beat that Boston team, man. I'm really surprised that they had to go to 7.
Yeah, they play down their competition and let Boston back in. But I think Giannis, I mean, Game 7 is in Boston today, so it's gonna be tough. But we'll see. Steve, what are your thoughts on the Miami Philly series, or just the playoffs in general?
I think Vari's full of shit. I think if Embiid is healthy going into that series, hindsight is 2020, and these guys, they played like shit. Philly played like shit, but I think if they're healthy going into the series, it's possible that Philly steals one on the road. Miami might have still won the series, because Philly was just fucking, I don't know what they were doing. Like, I don't know what Doc Rivers was doing. He was out coached by a guy who can't coach, and that is the crazy part about it. Like, for him to not have Maxey in at some really big points, for him to not understand that, and really even Miami, I'll give it to Spoelstra. He made the adjustment that he needed to get Bam back into the game, and that I think the final game, the closeout game, we talked about it even going into it. We're like, hey, Bam has to be in the game. He can't be on the sidelines. Like, this is your second best player on the team, and it's not even close. And Spoelstra made that, or somebody called him, maybe LeBron called him and gave him the advice, and he made that change. But yeah, to your point, man, Jimmy Butler was Jimmy Butler, right? Jimmy Butler, he came out, he did what you're supposed to do as a star. He took shots, he forced shots when he needed to. He made plays, he created buckets, and that was the difference between the Jimmy Butler that we saw this year and the Jimmy Butlers we've seen in the past, especially when he was in Philly. He didn't do that. He didn't have that freedom. And maybe it was the team or the coaching staff that said, hey, listen, you're the star. Go ahead and do what you do. But we didn't see that even from Kevin Durant this year. And that's what happened with Brooklyn. Kevin Durant was passive and scared. And, you always say it with wide receivers, but it's the same thing when you're the best or a top 5 to 10 player in the league in basketball. When you're covered, you're open. Jason Tatum, when he's covered, he's open. Jimmy Butler, when he's covered, he's open. When Steph Curry's covered, he's open. KD, it should be when you're covered, you're open, or you find a way to be open. And I think that's where he fell off. I don't know that the Bucks are going to be able to get it done, man. This game is in Boston, right? This
Played
is gonna be
really
a
well.
this is gonna be a tough game, and it's not slighting Giannis in any way. You guys know I love Giannis. I especially love this guy, just his fucking post games and shit like that. Like he plays this role of being this dumb non-American, and he just does it so well. And you know, he's so innocent, but I love the guy, but I think his team, it's the same thing LeBron dealt with in many of his years where he didn't win. Where you give him the ball and then you just stand there. There's no motion, there's no movement. You know, by the time you decide to try and bail this guy out, there's only 7 seconds left in the shot clock. Like, they got to get to it much quicker. They got to stop letting him. I know it's worked up until this point, but he can't be your ball handler. He can't. You need someone that can create a play, someone that knows how to manage the offense, who can make good passes or better passes in any situation. Otherwise, they're gonna. I mean, that Boston defense is too fucking good. You trap this guy, double, triple team him, and these guys are just standing around. If they don't hit shots, they lose, and that's where they're at right now, 3-3.
I think
EJ, let me say something to that real quick. You know, on the Doc thing, I agree. I don't know what the fuck Doc was doing. Like, after, you know, that famous Maya Angelou quote, you know, when the person shows you who they are, believe them, right? After the first 2 games when Harden showed you, like, yo, this is not Houston James Harden no more. You know what I mean? I'm good for, I can get you 15. You know what I mean? Like,
maybe 15 and 8.
Right. You know, at that point, it's like, yo, you gotta, when Embiid was out, you gotta run this offense through Maxey. Like, that kid is a star. You know what I mean? And let him get the shots if Harden ain't gonna take them. You know, that's one. You know, 2, with the Jimmy Butler thing, and I know people hate this shit when people say it or whatever, and they talk about the whole Heat culture and shit like that or whatever. You know what I mean? But I feel like the Miami Heat organization, that we used to kind of the way that we used to kind of talk about like Belichick as an example, right? How guys would go and play for them, and it seems like they play above their talent. You know what I mean? If you look at we have 2 guys who are undrafted in our starting 5. 2 undrafted guys, and Vincent and Strus. You know, so
but they're only there because they want Hero to get to be the 6th man and get the 6th man of the year. Like, you can easily. I would much rather, if I was a Heat fan, I'd rather see Hero starting.
No, I don't disagree with that, but regardless, it still is what it is. You got undrafted guys in the starting lineup. You know what I mean? And you're getting something out of these guys that, you know, they're essentially rising above their station. You know, and then to your point about like how,
do me a favor, pass me a beer while you're reaching.
Oh, and then and to your point about with Giannis's teammates, like how they're standing around just watching Giannis. Oh, he made it, cool, let's go get on defense. Oh, he missed, oh shit, let's go get on defense.
Yeah.
You know, nobody's rebounding, or it's just, let's see what Giannis does. You know what I mean? And with the Heat, and this ain't a Heat thing, you know, I'm pretty sure every coach says this or whatever, but even Victor Oladipo talked about, you know, they were like, how are you able to come off the bench and blah blah blah, woo, woo. And he was like, you know, Spo talks to us all the time, and he tells us, you know, be a star in your role. You know what I mean? And you look at a guy like Vincent, who comes up the court, and you know what he does? He passes the ball to Jimmy, because he says, it's not my job to be fucking taking all these shots.
It's too much.
You know?
It's too much heat nut hugging going on here. Okay, all right. I heard enough. I think in both situations, I think one, and I've said this, I've killed Doc Rivers 1,001 times on this pod. I've been saying it for years. He's one of the most overrated coaches we've seen in the last decade. There's him, D'Antoni,
Eric Spoelstra.
What's his name? Van Gundy. Stan. One 3 most overrated coaches in the last decade or more. Philly just isn't that good. Philly, to me, again, you have Embiid that was out, but I just think when you watch Philly all year and Embiid, yeah, and Embiid not playing was definitely a big factor, but that team lived at the foul line. So when you have a team like Miami that doesn't foul you often, and they play phenomenal team defense, you're gonna have this problem. And when Harden doesn't get to the line, and if you notice, right, ever since the rule rules got a little bit back to the 90s where they're saying we're not going to call these ticky-tack bullshit fouls on you, Harden's game has completely disappeared. The dude lived at the foul line, even all year. And, when I watched him play various teams, the only times he was going off was when he was getting ticky-tack bullshit calls. When he doesn't get that, his game is done.
But
And
not just that, EJ, though. Like, Harden's 32, and he looks like he's lost more than a step.
no,
And
I mean, even when he was with Brooklyn, he was cooking. But that team, as a team, when you got to think about it. The NBA refs, we've talked about this before, and I've always killed them for saying they're the worst officials in the big three pro sports. To me, by far, they go by emotion. They're almost starstruck. And when the league made an emphasis to not do those bullshit calls anymore, you see Steph Curry and the Warriors adjusting. You see the Giannis is going hard and adjusting. The Heat, they already played gritty. They've already played through that already. These guys, and specifically Harden, could not adjust. If you look at what Joel Embiid has 40 points, he has nights at the foul line where he's got like 20 shots already. You know what I mean? So when you're playing a Heat that can play dominant team defense without fouling you, you're bound to get stuck. And to both of your points, Doc Rivers, what are you doing with Maxey? He's literally the only spark you have, and he's going off, and you don't play him in key moments. I don't know, man. I don't know. But with Milwaukee, I think Giannis is going to will his team to win, and we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a tough out in Boston, but I think if Boston doesn't close this, the bigger problem will be how is it once again that with that team the way it is and who's on that team, how is it once again did they lose?
I don't like James Harden. You guys know I don't like him at all. But I will say with him, it's come down to it's almost looked like the boy who cried wolf this year. Now I know a lot of his fouls were ticky tack, but I also saw in this series, and not only the series prior, and throughout the year, there was a lot of calls he didn't get that he probably should have gotten. And I think it's because he's created that. He's created that name of a flopper. And because he's created that name of a flopper, when he's actually getting fouled, the refs are second guessing and saying, but is he flopping now? And, do I want to be the butt of everyone's jokes for giving this guy a flop foul? And I think he hurt himself in that point. But I think your boy, what the bigger issue that we have today is people are calling this guy point guard, saying he's a top 5 point guard or greatest point guard of all time.
Who's that, Chris Paul?
And he could potentially go 0-11 in game 7s today. Chris Paul.
Yeah, I personally never really, don't get me wrong, I've been a Chris Paul fan since high school. We were in high school around the same time when he dropped the 60 points plus for his grandfather. I've always been a Chris Paul fan. I personally can't see how you have him in your top 5 when you look at the era that he's played in, and to your point, the lack of playoff success. You know what I mean? The Stocktons, the Paytons, the Isaiahs, they had to deal with fucking Michael Jordan.
Magic,
Michael, Larry. They had to deal with an NBA that was totally different than it is today. Me personally, I can't put Chris Paul in my top 5. I think people are prisoners of the moment. But yeah, we're gonna see. The fact that they're in this game 7 with this Dallas team, to me, that's been suspect the entire year, is baffling to me. It's baffling to me. But hey, Golden State made work of Memphis like it was supposed to. Nothing to see there. But I do want to pull. Well, go ahead. Well, I mean, I don't feel like it was anything to see here. I mean,
Golden State did stomp a mud hole in their ass and beat them by like 300 points.
Yeah,
that
that's
one
to be
game.
expected. That's to be expected. To me,
nah, dog. I don't
Memphis
expect
even
a
needed
3-time championship team full of vets, full of assassins to be losing a game by 50 points to a team whose star player
you're
John
talking
Morant is on the bench.
Talking about when Memphis beat them. Well,
yeah.
contrary to popular belief, this Memphis team actually statistically during the year
They
played
play
better
better
without
without
Ja
Ja.
Morant. To be honest, when he missed them 20-something games, they
That team
won
is a
like
problem, man.
they won
They're
like
young.
16 of them.
If they keep that team together for the next few years, that Memphis team is going to be a fucking problem, dude.
Yeah.
These, like, the Western Conference, people are aging out. LeBron's probably going to run somewhere else eventually. Like, he'll find another star. Whoever wins the East this year or next
He
year.
retired eventually, not just run somewhere else.
Nah, he's gonna go to one of the teams that win the East and convince them. He'll play for them if they go get his son. Type of shit he does. But I know where EJ was going with that, so I guess that brings us to Black Fathers, right?
Yeah, that was my thing, man. Just quickly, like Ja Morant's father was getting killed, man, just for being so visible and being so present, being so supportive of his son. And then, of course, LeVar Ball gets mentioned in the same breath. And I'm like, what's up with people? What's people's problem with these fathers that have successful sons and they have the support of their dads? Like, what is the problem? I don't get it.
I think it's two different things, though. I'll give it to you, VP, after. I'll make it quick for me. I don't think that people were hating on Ja's dad for the same reason that people were hating on LeVar's. That's just a narrative that people are pushing. LeVar was more annoying than anything in a different route and different light. I think people were hating on Ja's dad because they were just like, who does this guy think he is? That just because his son is Ja Morant, that he deserves pictures with Usher. He could just walk up on Usher and, other stars of the like, just because he's in the stands. And why is he being treated that way? And why is the media highlighting the fact that this guy is some type of star? That's, I think, the hate that he was getting, that I saw at least. Not so much of the, why is this guy there for his son type of thing. And I think people have spun it that way. But it was getting annoying to me. Like, I'm looking at this guy like, why? Like, why do you have the gall to just feel like just because your son is him that you have? I like the fact that he connected with some of the other parents, the other fathers and stuff like that. But walking up to, Usher or somebody else, like, I don't think just because you're Ja Morant's dad that you. I mean, this guy hasn't really won. He's just a good, I love Ja Morant too, by the way, but I don't know.
VP.
It's not like your Michael Jordan's dad or something like that. Rest in peace.
I pretty much agree with what Steve said there. I think with LeVar Ball, he was more obnoxious than anything. Regardless, so EJ made the point consistently anytime we talked about him. This just a dude who is trying to be there for his sons, who put all this work into his sons, and they're enjoying the fruits of that labor, et cetera, et cetera. And there's nothing wrong with that. But he just seemed like an obnoxious asshole. You know what I mean? And with Ja's dad, it seems like, like he's supporting his son and also like trying to become like a celebrity dad or something,
right,
at the
there
same
you go.
time.
You
And
said
I
it better
think
than me.
I think that kind of annoys people. It has like some actually I'm not gonna that's probably too far. I won't
No,
say
don't.
that part.
Say it.
I was gonna say it has like some Chris
No,
Jenner
you-
vibes, but that's why I was like, nah, that's probably too far.
Here's my son's sex tape.
I hear you guys, and I think the differences in the connection are obviously there, and it just always baffled me that people couldn't see that what LeVar Ball was doing was simply promotional. You know what I mean? And it worked 1,000,000%. And you got to ask yourself, you guys are the fathers of sons. And any parent, your kid is a first round draft pick, balling. You next to people you grew up listening, or came of age listening to their music, and you get to rub shoulders. And people the stars know. They ask like, "Yo, who's that dude sitting down there?" or whatever the case may be. And it just seems like society and people are hating on them, man. You know what I mean? Because this is one of the biggest things that we could celebrate, and we choose to find something negative about it because we ain't in the shoes. You know what I mean? And granted, you got other sports
annoying.
fathers, huh?
He's annoying.
You got other sports
What
fathers.
do I have in common with you? Like, if I'm fucking Ti. You know what I'm saying? Or Jay-Z or somebody. Like, what do I have in I don't need to have you can shake my
What you
hand and
need
keep
to
it
have?
moving.
I'm
Like,
I'm
I
on
don't
the
need a
floor.
photo op. I'm
I'm
not.
on the floor. I'm just getting the picture. I'm a fan.
What are we
Why are we
talking
killing
about,
him?
dog? Like,
Why
what
are
are
we
we
killing
talking
him?
about? I
Why
got
are we
nothing to talk
killing
to
him?
you about.
Why are we killing him? He's just getting the picture. He's a fan. He's on the court.
I
Other
got nothing
people
to
do
talk
that.
to you about, dog. Keep it moving.
It's stupid. And when you look at other sports fathers, right? And I guess the difference in certain instances with the Manning is that, Archie Manning was a legend in itself. But, it's just crazy to me that especially our I can see how the rest of the sports world might could say something, but black folks, I just don't get us. We have a moment to celebrate a dude who got his kid to the pinnacle of his athletic career, and he's just having a good ass time being on the fucking sideline. And we
But you know
find
what else?
something to kill him
You know,
with.
you know what else I think it is, Steve, is or EJ. I mean, is that it's the sport itself, right? Because with basketball, the fans are more accessible, right? Like in football, you got those parents who go to every game, but they don't give interviews to the meet the like the there's not like the you don't see Aaron Andrews go from the sideline up into the stands to interview, Tua's parents. You know what I'm saying? Like
It happened. It
no, I'm not.
definitely
I'm
Definitely
not
happened.
saying
so.
that I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm saying you see that more often in the NBA than you see in other sports. You don't see.
True.
You don't see people in baseball talking to Aaron Judge's people and shit like that. You know what I mean?
True.
So with basketball, you got those parents. Like I remember when Wade played for the Heat, his mom was at almost like every game. You know what I mean? And so then people go, oh, let's talk to Mama Wade or let's talk to Mama Paul, talking to Chris Paul's mom or something like. And so I think that's kind of why people might be like, yo, why the fuck are we like this is just a dad? Like, what the fuck is he
But
doing?
but to
Because you're
that
not
point,
used to it.
right? Kevin Durant's mom
Or,
Kevin Durant's mom has been one of those people that kind of, indirectly and not necessarily on purpose, but created her own celebrity, getting the airtime, getting the interviews, getting, going back and forth with some of the players, and she's come out and defended this dude, various times. So, John Moran's pops ain't do nothing to that regard yet.
I don't have a problem with them interviewing him and stuff like that. I have the problem with the game's over and he feels like he should be able to put his feet on the court.
You
Like
hating.
and it's not just him. I think
You
anybody.
hating.
Listen, we just talked about the access to the access to stars and stuff like that. Like
He's on the court side. His kid is
he's not,
playing.
but he's not always courtside. He's usually 2, 3, 4, 5 rows up. For you the game's over, and now game's over. Let me head down to the floor every game. Like
Everybody's
that
parents does that.
that part, Steve, I don't necessarily have a problem with, and the reason why I say that it's not fair, but it is what it is, right? All fans aren't created equally, right? That's the reason why, you know, at the Miami game, you got DJ Khaled walking up and down the sideline, hyping up the
Drake.
crowd, touching Spoelstra, Drake doing the same
those
shit.
are stars, though. This is just a dad.
Shit, Mike.
Right,
just
Mike
a dad.
my
Jordan,
point
Mike
is though
Jordan,
that all
Mike Jordan's
fans aren't
father.
created equal.
Mike Jordan's father being in the locker room after
Listen.
the championships.
Sit your
Smoking
ass down
cigars.
like Del Curry.
He's
Up
getting
in
hated
like
on.
sit in like the 20s, the 200 seats like Del
Dell
Curry,
don't
man.
need to be
Relax,
there.
dog.
Dell's been there before. Dell was a player. This guy
Man,
is just
listen.
like Michael Jordan's father, soaking it up. No one said nothing to Michael Jordan's pops when he was back there smoking cigars with the team. He wasn't supposed to be back there. We're
That's
just
different.
hating on him. We hating.
Hindsight 2020 for me in everything today is I actually, now I'm thinking about it, don't have a problem with LeVar Ball and the way he was acting, because one, it worked, and two, I don't see any difference in the shit he was doing and what we see people doing on TikTok nowadays. Like, people are okay, like people just have no problem with just acting a fool and personal humiliation on TikTok just for a like. Like, it's crazy. And if he did that he was doing that for his sons, he absolutely was. I support him in it now. Now that I'm looking at it. But in the moment, it's hard to see that because he was super duper obnoxious, and you're just like, come on, You laying it on thick,
Yeah.
like relax.
But it worked. And when you thought about it, and my point of defending it was he didn't have the Manning last name. He didn't have the capital. He didn't have the, let's just call it what it is. He didn't have that pass from the media being a black father of three relatively, known but unknown prospects at some point. LeVar, the first one, the oldest one. I can't think his damn name.
LaMelo.
LaMelo.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
no, LaMelo is the mid one.
Yeah.
Can't think of his goddamn name.
I can't either. Now. I'm seeing his face, but not his
The
name.
oldest one.
Yeah, I know
He was known and getting traction, but you got to think, man. Once LeVar started doing this, Chino Hills basketball catapulted to ESPN. Now they're on all the time.
Lonzo.
Lonzo. And then when you think about it, man, he's got three sons. Even the middle one, Jello. In his trajectory, he even said, Jello is the least talented of the three. He worked his ass off in the D League. He's getting some looks. He's getting money. He's getting paid. And since this, LeVar really hasn't relatively been in the media. So it was clear at some point to me that this was just a ploy
just
to
saw
get
that
his son.
motherfucking AT&T commercial.
Well, I mean, he's getting a commercial. I mean, shit. Donovan McNabb's mom had fucking Chunky Soup commercials. She ain't do the goddamn thing as far as playing or anything. She was just Donovan McNabb's mom. But this dude got two number 1 first round pick sons that are flourishing, and people was killing him. And I mean, he had to sell the tickets, and it worked. 1,000,000% it worked. 1,000,000%. So I just found that quite interesting. But going forward, like we said, we got the 2 game 7s tonight. We're gonna see how it shakes out. My prediction's still holding up so far. VP still holding in there so far. Really quickly, man, and NFL schedules came out. Any quick points and feelings?
I mean, the NFL, the schedule is. I think people get too crazy over. Like I saw a guy who said, "I'm looking at the schedule. Dolphins. I don't think they win more than 8 games." And I'm like, the rosters aren't even set.
I agree.
Like,
I agree.
like we don't even got the 53-man rosters. Nobody's played a game. No injury. Just they only gonna win 8 games.
Saw enough. 2 of the quarterback. They saw enough.
Right. I'm looking at the schedules. And I guess I'm one of those guys. Based on history
Here we go.
and expected team performance, I've got the Cowboys going 12-5.
Oh man, ooh, I'm shocked.
Woo. Sheesh.
I thought he was gonna say 17-0.
Well, 17-0 wouldn't surprise me.
Or 18-0 now, I guess, since they
usually, Nah, I won't go there. I don't want you guys to. I don't want you guys to feel. I don't want you guys to feel bad. 12-5. 12-5. I got us. With the potential 13-4. There's one team in there that's questionable. I'm not going to put the exact teams out right now. I think after we get a little closer, we can have a more in depth. But I got them going 12-5 right now.
For my team, it's just interesting. The first 4 games will all be against the AFC North. So we open up with the Ravens. I'm actually, I hate to be optimistic about my team, but I'll make a bold prediction and say we go 3-1 on that stretch. I think we could beat the Ravens. I think they're kind of in disarray right now, if you ask me. Offensively, they don't have Marquise Brown. Lamar hasn't had a contract yet. We still haven't seen how that plays out. So yeah, I don't know if Deshaun Watson will actually play for Cleveland to open things up, but I think if he does, it's going to be a pretty damn difficult task to deal with. So we'll see. But yeah, NFL schedule's out. We're almost there, fellas. Almost there.
Yeah, I mean, for us, our schedule starts. We're kind of just like you guys, EJ, where we're starting AFC North and then division. We basically just bounce back and forth between division, AFC North, division, AFC North. So we got the Pats and the Ravens first. I think we could win both of those games without a problem. Get Bills in the 3rd week. That's when we really see, I think, who runs this division. And then the Bengals the week after that, which I think will set a tone for the I won't say AFC generally,
You're
but
pretty confident over there, my guy. Pretty
hey,
confident.
man, you gotta be,
I
man.
like it.
Gotta
I
show this guy
like
some
it.
love, man.
I like it.
Who
I
knows?
like it.
I could be confident, and by week 3, I could have a trash bag over my head. I
Right,
don't know.
right. The Cowboys are lucky enough to have the NFC North and the AFC South as our out of division teams this year. So
Mhm.
that's a good thing. We get, the Lions. So of the notable trash from those two divisions, we get the Jags, the Lions, Houston, this year, and then we get the marginal teams of Tennessee, and the Bears this
But
year.
I mean, with that 12-5 prediction, man, I think that I think you're sleeping on Philly. Philly's gotten better. Like Cowboys are not gonna just fucking
I split it. I split
walk
Philly.
over,
I split it,
over
1-1.
division. I don't even think you guys win the division this year.
Yeah, I know. I split it 1-1 with Philly.
Marcus Spears talked about this, and I have to agree with him because at first I was kind of on a hype train. Philly added one receiver. That's all they did. They didn't do that much more on defense. They didn't, they still got a question at quarterback, which they're not even sure about right now.
I don't even know who they added. Who they add?
On defense, just in the draft, they took.
No, I mean the wide receiver. Seriously, I
AJ
don't
Brown.
remember. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, I just couldn't remember. Yeah, that's a notable name.
I mean, it's a notable addition, but it's one receiver. You know what I'm saying?
Let me ask you this. Speaking of AJ Brown, apparently at the NFL draft, AJ Brown was available.
Mm-hmm.
So how the fuck, if you're Arizona, you end up with Hollywood Brown? Did they mix up the Browns?
Well, think of it like this: Arizona. I don't know what their cap situation looks like because they have DeAndre, and they still got to pay if they're planning to, right? And that's a whole nother thing. If they plan to extend or pay Kyler, who was asking for astronomical numbers, it might have been difficult considering AJ Brown was looking for a long-term deal, which is why he couldn't get it done with Tennessee. So I don't know that they wanted to go ahead and pull him over and then either one, not extend him and lose him, and now you've wasted a pick, or extend him and then ruin, your cap situation with the other guys.
Yeah, it's why I think which Debo's still in San Francisco. Teams aren't willing to go out there because this was like we've been saying, wide receiver rich draft. Why am I going to jump out there for a guy who's aging to pay him $100 million plus when I'm gonna just go after the next guy, build them up? These kids are coming in year one, some of them and dominating. So
yeah, CeeDee Lamb,
Jefferson,
Calvin Ridley, if he would have fucking stayed mentally sane. And really, I won't even say it's a mental issue with him. I think it is because he made a mental mistake in fucking being the Pete Rose of football.
Literally being a Pete Rose of football.
$1,500 cost you $10 million.
Crazy.
Or more.
Crazy. All right, moving from that. Any quick notable bingeables? You guys got?
Cool. So I've been watching my usual shit. Outlander ended. Billions is over. I've been watching Survivor. Love that show. I'm kind of rewatching The Good Place right now. I've seen it already, but like now knowing like the twist in it, I'm kind of watching it, like trying to see if I could have picked it up earlier. And I'm kind of like some things are jumping out at me in that first season before the twist happens with The Good Place. But I started this show that I told you guys about. I watched a preview and I was like, oh, this thing like is gonna be good. The show called The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Okay.
With Chiwetel Ejiofor, the guy from 12 Years a Slave. Mm-hmm. I always tell you guys, I give a show 3 episodes, see what happens. Episode 1, I was in. You know what I mean? It's really good. The acting is just crazy, yo. And like what I like about the show is like, how most shows, because in the show he's an alien, you can tell from the title, right? Mm-hmm. But how like most like alien stuff, like the guy or whoever the alien is, they show up and they kind of like already speak English, and they learned it from a satellite or some bullshit like that or whatever, and they didn't do that kind of thing. So it's like he shows up and he's like learning like as he's hearing, you know what I mean? And so they have this great scene where he gets arrested, and he's in episode 1, he's in the police station, and where he comes from, it's like hot as fuck on the planet or whatever. So throughout the show, he's like constantly like just drinking water because he's always like really hot, right? And so he's in the police station and he wants some water. But when he got arrested, the cops are like, "Yo, on the ground, blah, blah, blah." So he's thinking like this is how we talk to each other, where it's just like screaming, you know what I mean? And so the lady's like, "Are you gonna tell me your name?" And he's like, "Water." And then she's like, you better calm the fuck down or something like that. And then you see this guy on the side, another cop, who's like yelling at somebody, and he's like, "Get your fucking ass in there." And the lady cop tells Chiatel, she's like, "Sometimes you can kind of get what you want when you add a fuck in there." And he's like, "Fuck water."
Yo, you were tickled by that.
That shit had me dying. But it's good though, man. It's good.
What's it called?
Show. It's called The Man Who Fell to Earth.
And where and what
on Showtime.
Okay.
It's 3 episodes in, so this weekend was episode 4. So you only got it's hour long. So if you start watching, you only got to get up to 4 episodes to catch up.
Got it. Steve, what you got?
The Circle, baby. The Circle's back. I've been slow playing that one. Watched some of it. So they're doing 4 like they did last season. 4 week or the 4 episodes first week. It looked like another 4 the second week, but I've been kind of trying to drag it out a little because I know how addictive I am to that show. So if I watch all 4 of them on the first night, I'd be like, damn, I need some more. They do really good with cliffhangers. So I've been watching that. I got 2 more left for this week's releases that came out on Wednesday. And I think I'll be in a good spot if I watch one today, one tomorrow, and then I'll be ready to go on Wednesday. So I've been watching that. I've been slow grinding pause through Ozark because I want to cherish this last season because they said there's a lot of thought-provoking stuff in it, which there is so far. So I'm only like 3.5 episodes through. And they say it's really good. It ends really good. So I kind of want to.
I've seen other posts saying that people hated the ending.
So I don't know what happened. So I can't comment. But I heard some people say that the ending, or I saw a lot of people say that it was good because it was a realistic ending, versus some people that are like it was bad because it was a realistic ending. Like well, and so. But a lot of people told me, hey, make sure, you're going to be confused throughout the whole season. So pay attention, and then it ends well. So I'm interested in getting to the end of it. So I've been on that. I have on my list to watch EJ Still. I heard is really good, and you're probably going to touch on it. Pause in your binges, but the Baltimore one you were talking about. We
own the city.
We own the city. I want to get to that. Actually, you know what I think I'm going to do? I have a flight on Wednesday. It's a 2-hour flight. So I think I'm going to watch it on the flight. So I'll probably download those to my phone because I'm flying fucking Spirit, man. It's the only one going where I needed to go with a direct flight, man. And I am I'm almost ready to cancel my fucking trip just because every day I think getting closer to having to take Spirit, I'm like, man, do I really need to go? God, I don't want to do it. I really don't. Like
nickel and diamond motherfuckers,
dude. Every time I pop it out, listen, I'm trying to find out like what outfits I could take to not have to get a carry-on. They talking about $50 for a carry-on. I said I'm gonna just get me a purse. I'm gonna bring me a purse and a little personal book bag. And if they try to hold me up at the gate, I'm gonna play the gender role thing. Now we're defining gender roles. We don't do that these days. This is my purse. I'm entitled to it.
I was just watching Meet the Parents last night, in that scene where he's about to leave, and he was like the bomb. He was going off on her about the bomb in the
Yeah.
bag. That shit was
Look, I was a
funny.
bombardier.
That shit was
Classic,
funny.
yeah.
I'd have left her ass though, for the record. But anyway, yeah, We Own the City. I got to catch up on it. I haven't watched the most recent episode. I did binge watch the rest of this season of Snowfall. Didn't like it.
I heard it was terrible.
Didn't like it at all. It was just a waste of time. It really seems like they may have been hurt by John Singleton's death. And I don't know how far they really did with their writing and where the story's going. The final episode, to me, was a little bit more of what the rest of the season should have been. The final episode ended off pretty well. I don't know if that show, I think it has to come back. It's definitely left some room for it to come back pretty strong. But it wasn't a good season at all. I've caught up with the Mayans, which is, the spinoff arc of Sons of Anarchy already.
I heard
love
my
the
guy
show.
is back in there this season.
Who that?
Damn it. I can't remember what his name was on it. The Spanish dude.
It's a show about a Mexican biker gang. It's a lot of
No, that was in the one that was in the one that was in Sons of Anarchy.
I don't know, because I don't remember anyone. Yeah, I don't. Other than I don't remember anyone that was missing
From the
the
dude
show.
from Machado,
Machete.
Danny Trejo or Danny Trejo or something like that.
Danny Trejo's not on the.
Right.
Not on the show.
Just stop, Vary.
But
He was
Go
in
ahead,
Sons of
EJ.
Anarchy.
Go ahead, EJ. No, he wasn't.
Yes,
Go,
he was.
EJ,
He was in that
finish.
season where they were like working with the CIA or whatever.
EJ, finish.
Yeah. But I love the show, but it's already some major glaring plot holes that just has me scratching my head. So I don't really know. But I did watch this movie, The Northman. Viking movie. That shit was ass. Don't do it to yourself. And of course, Doctor Strange. Did everybody see Doctor Strange?
Oh yeah, I saw it yesterday. So sorry.
Yo, Doctor Strange got me fucked up, dog. Like, before we get into that, let me just say I've been watching Is It Cake also on Netflix, and that's an addictive show.
It's weird as shit.
No, it's pretty dope, man. It has Mikey Day, which is what brought me to it, because I like Saturday Night Live, like VP likes Saturday Night Live. So Mikey Day is in it. He's the host. So I figured there would be some good laughs on it. But yeah, it's actually pretty good, man. Plus, in high school, I took baking and cake decorating. So, I kind of like that kind of thing. Doctor Strange got me fucked up, dog. I had a dream the other night, and I'm like, yo, this shit is happening in an alternate galaxy, yo. This is definitely happening.
Also, I looked up Danny Trejo, 14 episodes of Sons of Anarchy. Played character Romero Parada.
Yeah, that must have been early. I don't remember that at all. I don't remember that.
It's okay.
I don't remember him being in there at all. But
yeah,
okay.
He was.
Doctor Strange.
But yeah, Doctor Strange, man. I liked it, and I mean, obviously, we saw this coming. Like, I don't even like the whole, in my mind, I think that, the whole multiverse thing was how they were always going to bring in X-Men and Fantastic Four, which they did. One thing that I loved right away when they finally introduced Professor X, which I don't even know what they kind of made it a big reveal, but it's like once you show Reed Richards, like we already see what's going on. I don't know why you had to do like the late walkout or rollout from Patrick Stewart for Professor X or whatever.
And they also showed it in the previews, which I thought was trash.
Right. That they should have never did that. They should have let you go into the movie theater and find out. They like
what's that? I'm sorry.
When the Professor X and Fantastic Four, all that shit went.
They showed that in the previews? I didn't see it.
They did.
Okay.
Movies always blow their fucking load in the previews, And sometimes you want, because sometimes you get stuff in the preview that don't end up in the movies, and you're like, this movie was fucking trash, you know. But in this case, they put that in the preview, and then so you're not surprised. It's kind of like the Will Smith joint when he's fighting himself, like a clone of himself.
Yeah, Gemini Man.
Gemini Man, and you put that on the poster, and it's like, I wonder who that assassin is. They keep showing in the shadow. An hour later, that's Will Smith. This is my shock face. So,
yeah.
but nah, I thought that the multiverse was gonna be how they do it or whatever, and this whole thing about like how universes collide and all that kind of stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure that's how we're gonna end up getting X-Men in the MCU and stuff like that. So that'll be cool. But the thing I loved about it though, because for me, I'm not a comics guy like EJ. I came to X-Men through the cartoon on Saturday morning when I was a kid. And I love that they had Professor X in the fucking floating yellow wheelchair joint or whatever, instead of like an actual wheelchair.
And he came out to the 90s theme. I don't know if you noticed that either.
Yeah, I did. Like that was, I love that shit. There were parts of it I didn't like, and because it's like it's so unoriginal, like the callbacks and shit. Like when instead of Captain America, it's the British lady. I could do this all day. It was just like when they were fighting each other in fucking Endgame, both Steve Rogers, like shit like that. I don't really care for. Like how in this universe Captain Marvel is Rambo instead of the other chick. Like I thought that was kind of cool, But yeah, it was overall, man. It was good, man. I liked it.
Solid film. Sam Raimi did a good job of bringing horror to the MCU.
Yeah,
it was definitely dark. And and I'd said this to you guys before. This was the direction that they were going with Blade and Morbius and everything on the horizon. So yeah, I already kind of saw this coming. And to your point, VP, I made the notion of it when we had WandaVision that based on the comics, this was like their short crash version of making things work now that they've reacquired the rights. So a lot of plot holes in it, but overall I think it was a solid film. I hate that once again Marvel is they're using these big stars that have potential to have great films versus decent films. They're using them as setup points. Like Doctor Strange is this was just a setup movie. You had the potential to really make this a big blockbuster movie about him, where you more so made it a setup for something else. And I think they're going to do that with Thor as well. But we'll see. Ultimately, I don't know ultimately if it's all going to pan out for the casual fans, but we'll see.
The thing I didn't like about it was and I remember asking you this question when you guys were talking about like Loki and WandaVision, etc. And I was like, do I need to watch those to keep up with like what's happening in the movies? And y'all were like, nah. And that may have been the case when they first started doing the Disney Plus series. But in watching Strange, like I know what happened in WandaVision only because I watched some YouTube videos about it. You guys talked about it while I listened on the podcast and stuff, but I didn't see WandaVision. So if I was just a fan who didn't do this, right? And I go to see this movie, I'm like, whoa, what the fuck happened to Wanda? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like all of a sudden she's different. You know what I mean? And or Wanda. Her name not even Wanda. Her name's fucking I can't even think about it right now.
What they call her in the movie, or
in the movie they didn't used to call her Wanda at first.
Scarlet. Yeah, Scarlet.
Well, she became the Scarlet. She became the Scarlet Witch. Which but and then another thing that I and this may have been what happened on Disney Plus, I don't know, is that EJ's talked about like how the power levels, because in the MCU, like pre Thanos, she's just like another character who has abilities, and then in Doctor Strange she's like super fucking OP. You know what I mean? Where
she had a lot of power with in Endgame.
No, in Endgame, but I'm saying building up to that.
Oh, you're talking getting into it. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, but then when you get to Strange, the whole
it's like she couldn't be stopped.
Shit, Yeah, they all of them doing the force field joint at the headquarters, and she's just that
Well,
shit was great.
that was always my gripe with the End Game and the Avenger movies, was that we were seeing characters not being in the form that they should be in. And I mean, you can kind of say, I guess, she was developing throughout things, but even if you go back to the battle scene in Wakanda, and she does something, and one of the Dora, I can't remember her name, Okoye, was like, yo, she could have did that shit the whole time. Like, what the fuck?
Mhm.
Like, so it's always been that inconsistency there. And when you know about the comics, she's one of literally the most powerful people in the universe. I didn't like how she was able to easily defeat Black Bolt and then easily defeat Professor X, which is literally the opposite.
Right. Yeah,
You
that's
know.
that's nasty. But I think it was because they didn't want, like, I bet you, and I could be wrong, but I bet you this was probably a much longer film with some types, with a little bit more with the Professor X and her. But you could almost make that a whole, not a whole film, but you could make that probably half a film, building into it and stuff like that, because he's like, man, so maybe I benefited from it. I did not watch any of the previews. I didn't see any of the Strange previews. I didn't like the first Doctor Strange. I hated it. And so maybe that's why I probably didn't even plan on going to see this in the movies, but we ended up going anyway. And I'm glad I did. And I'm glad I didn't see the previews, because seeing Professor X, to me, like, I had the feeling that you guys are talking about people should have been able to get. I was like, oh shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think I even said it in theater, and I was expecting other people to have the same thought, and they didn't. So now I know why. But I was like, oh shit, and so I was really excited to see Professor X there. But the other piece I was going to put in was going to be very similar to Vari's. Like, I feel like she was much stronger than they've led on to believe. And we talked about it also with Vision in the past, right? Vision, from one movie, he's the weakest piece of shit ever, to like, he could fucking take on, the world by himself and shit. So that's the one thing, the inconsistency there. But
Yeah.
I thought they did a good job. And I also think they were really, really smart with this multiverse and helping people understand what the multiverse is, showing that there were multiple Stranges. They did a good job there, because for people who may not know what that really meant, the ability to see multiple Stranges in multiple areas, it also leaves the door open. If they were starting to plummet or fail as a company or in their movies, they could bring fucking Robert Downey back and bring all of those people back, rebuild this shit, and be like, oh, this is the guy from this universe. So
Right.
I think they're really strategic and smart with this.
The
Yeah.
one thing that I thought that they like, and I get they probably have to do this like for a movie, but the thing that didn't make any sense to me is like how it seems like every it seems like in all the universes, kind of the same things are happening. It's just that, like, in their universe, Thanos
Variants.
tried to wipe out the universe, but instead of Iron Man killing them, they killed Thanos, and then they killed Strange for doing whatever he did. You know what I mean? And like, I don't think like that's how shit would really play out, like in all these different multiple universes. Like, it's always Thanos. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't it be like the guy who was at the pizza cart is the one trying to get the Infinity Stones or something? Like, you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna get a little corny, because it's kind of like that DC Martha moment, where it's like they're gonna harp on this. What was it? Incursions. They're gonna really harp on that shit, and it's gonna get kind of old, because they were really force feeding it down our throat. And this whole concept of the whole concept of the multiverse is fairly new for Marvel in general. I mean, we've known about alternate things, but it hasn't been something they really always written on in the comics. So they are getting a lot of freedom with this and what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I totally think those cameos were a waste. To have them killed like that and so
Right.
fast, it was kind of like a waste. I've been waiting personally to see, Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four back on screen for years, and for it to go down like that, it was just like, okay, you know. But overall, it was a solid film, and like I said, it's a setup piece for the future. So yeah. But before we check out of here, you guys have been having a chat war for the ages on politics. I won't dive too deep on that because we might be here 2 hours. But anything new in politics? Anything that anyone want to talk about politically?
I mean, two things. One, Mitch McConnell led a Republican delegation to Ukraine yesterday. Met with Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky, and I could only think, like, I wonder if he's thinking, like, you motherfuckers are coming over here to meet with me now, but you thought it was cool when Trump was holding up my aid and shit like that to fight the Russians or whatever, So I wonder if that was crossing his mind while they were shaking hands and shit like that. And then the other thing, man, EJ mentioned earlier when we started the pod, we were off last week because it was Mother's Day, and it seems like
here we go.
A lot more people are going to be celebrating Mother's Day than wants to, based on this leaked draft opinion from the Supreme Court. I feel sorry for women, man. It seems like we're going to start now forcing people to have children they don't want, forced pregnancies, and then marching right on our way to the Handmaid's Tale.
For those who can't see through Vari's stark imagination, he is making light of, or he's making reference to the Roe v. Wade being strike down, and which has to do with abortion rights. And it's looking like, and a lot of states following suit in the sense that they're passing laws and making plans to truly prevent the ability to have an abortion in any circumstance. And it's starting to get very common and popular in a lot of these states. And as I started to think through it, right, and I'm thinking, like, damn, what the fuck? What's the thought behind this? And the thought behind it to me, and I started listening to other podcasts, and then I start reading some stuff and looking at stuff, and I think other people started to think like I was thinking, but I thought I was just crazy for thinking it. And the thought for me was, white people are getting outnumbered in the United States, right? And so in these states where they're predominantly white, they don't want people to be out there aborting children. They want to force them to have kids so they can try and get the census back and get, and become the majority in the United States. That's the thought that was running through my head. And I was like, no, this is fucking bonkers. This is bananas. There's no way this is a thing. And then as I listened to some additional podcasts and I started just going on, different pages and reading through some stuff, a lot of people have that thought. And I mentioned that to ask you guys, do you think that is a potential?
Well, being the resident conspiracy theorist here, I think nothing is out of bounds, because we do know one thing. We do know that these nations do consider population control, and whether it's decreasing it or other, population control is a thing. So I don't know that it would be far-fetched to believe that. I don't know that the information suggests that by doing this it will help the white community. I don't know. But I don't think anything is too taboo. So that's the quick version for me.
For me, I don't think that's the reason. I think that the reason is religion. It's people who are forcing their religious views on an entire population. I think it's no more than that. It's that people,
and that could also be the population aspect of it is religious. The fruitful and multiply.
Be fruitful and multiply. And the thing for me about this whole thing is that one, I mean, I support abortion rights, right? People should have the choice to decide when they want to start a family, if they want to start a family, increase the size of the family, etc. Right? And there are multiple reasons that women, have abortions, and it's their body, it's their fucking choice, right? And it has nothing to do with me. I shouldn't be involved, right? The state shouldn't be involved, except in, I guess, making sure the procedure is safe, you know. But the problem that people, or not the problem, but the thing that people have to understand is that it's not going to stop with abortion, right? They're going to get rid of Roe and Casey, which are both abortion rights cases. Then they're going to go after Griswold, and Griswold is the contraception case, Griswold versus Connecticut, which the state used to ban contraception. And they're going to go on and on, right? And they're going to keep using this theory or this doctrine that, this thing wasn't written down in the Constitution, so we got to get rid of it, right? And there are tons of things that we live by today that aren't written down in the Constitution, but we still abide by them as rights. That's what we have the Ninth Amendment for. The Ninth Amendment essentially says, just because something's not written down in here, I'm paraphrasing obviously, just because something's not written down in here doesn't mean that it's not a right. You know what I mean? And so things like interracial marriage could be on the line, gay rights, and on and on and on. They're not going to stop at abortion. And people who were anti-abortion activists have already started gearing up to start coming for gay rights, and they're not going to stop there. They're going to keep going on and on and on. And their ultimate goal is to have power over people, be it for racial reasons, religious reasons, etc. But that's the point.
Yeah, and it's crazy that the one party that always makes arguments that the government has too much control is the one saying that we should control human rights of other people. And I think that's the problem with politics, right? Depending on what side of the pendulum you swing on, you try to change the narrative to fit your goal, and that's the thing. At the end of the day, the American people are the ones that truly suffer. And that, I think that's the problem with everything. We don't have enough people in politics that actually make decisions that reflect the people that they're actually serving. And it's definitely scary, because when you start to move on that, like you're alluding to, what else are you going to feel you can do? So,
right. And with this issue, like, it's not like we're talking about some kind of hot button issue where it's like the country is just so divided on this. Like, you hear, like, and this is the problem. Like, we talked about the euphemism for like racial shit, when they say stuff like racially tinged, racially charged. You'll hear the media when they talk about abortion, they talk about it as being like this hot button issue that the country is just so divided on, and that's just not true. Almost 70% of the American people support abortion rights in some form.
I think it was like 67 when I looked at to your point.
Yeah, that's why I said almost 70%.
Yeah.
Right. And some people think, okay, you probably should restrict it at a certain like week level, like maybe it's 16 weeks or right now it's like 22 weeks or something like that. So you could have restrictions like that or whatever, right? But for the most part, people agree that we should have abortion rights. But you have this small minority in the country who said, nah, this book that I got that was written by this dude 2,000 years ago said we shouldn't do that. So, yeah, we got to roll with that.
Steve, you had something.
I don't know how to articulate it, but it's politics is just nasty. Both sides of the fence. To your point, EJ, I think you made the best point there. Sometimes the argument works for one group, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think that's both sides of it. Like, in this sense, right? I think one of the big arguments that I saw from someone was technology has come a long way, so we know so much more about fetuses and abortion and stuff like that, right? And so since this, all of this, since Roe v. Wade was so long ago, why can't we revisit it? And I think that's the point that VP makes about the gun laws, right? It was written so long ago. Why can't we revisit it? Now we know that we don't have just muskets and just bayonets out there. We have, these ARs that people have access to and the mass capacity magazines and things of that nature. So, and that's why I say, right? So the Dems use that towards the Republicans, and then the Republicans are turning around and using it towards the Dems, and it's just a fucking shit show. Like, and again, I will say it on every episode we talk about any type of conflict between the two. It's all about right versus left versus right versus wrong. And I think there's a case, and there should be a use cause for people who need to take advantage of abortion and choose to take advantage of abortion. So I absolutely am in no way in agreement, for what's taking place. I think it's irresponsible to put it 100% on religion, even though I'm not a religious person. But I think there's a lot more. There's a lot more behind it, personally.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're about to live in a country that is going to force people to have children they don't want, that has a social safety net that won't take care of those children if those parents have them and adopt them out.
Yep.
We live in a country that doesn't provide mandatory maternity leave, that doesn't have good outcomes when it comes to prenatal care. This shit is gonna kill people, and I'm not like, this is not me being like reaching or hyperbolic, right? And just from a personal standpoint, my own wife suffers from a heart condition that was caused as a result of her pregnancy. So for people to say like, oh well, you could give the kid up for adoption, right? Who's gonna pay the medical bills while that woman's pregnant? You know what I mean? Who's gonna pay her medical bills should she develop some kind of condition as a result of the pregnancy? You know what I mean? In states like Louisiana, where they passed a law recently, which basically will go in effect once the Supreme Court rules and knocks down Roe, that basically bans abortion in all cases, including rape and incest. Right? We're now telling people that we're telling women, hey, if you're raped, you got to live with that rapist, baby in you for 9 months, and you got to raise it. Or I mean, you can give it up, I guess, at some, but this shit is insane. It's gonna hurt a lot of people, and it's why I continuously say that religion is fucking dangerous, because you get outcomes like this where people force their beliefs on other people. And I get Steve say he doesn't think that it's for this or whatever, and that's fine. We can all feel differently about where we think this is coming from or whatever. But when you start forcing your own beliefs on people, this shit puts it's fucking dangerous.
I agree with you. Let me just ask this for the people, and then for the sake of us not always saying, we agree, I agree, you're right, I'm right. Like, we have to have some type of fucking conversation here. What do you say to the people that, and I know that this is apples to oranges, but what do you say to the people that use the same argument for COVID vaccines, the forcing beliefs and masks and stuff like that? Again, I know it's apples and oranges.
No, because while we can argue on one hand that it has a societal benefit, it's all about your perspective, and it's all about your choice, and it's all about your ability to want to choose. And you can say whatever it is that you want to say. At the end of the day, it's literally the same argument. It's my body. I get to do what I want with it. You can say, though, the science suggests this, the science suggests that. And then you could say, well, it has a larger benefit to society, right? Well, somebody can say, well, I'm unvaccinated. I don't go anywhere. I don't bother anybody. I stay to myself. I stay distance. It's my body. But we make the conversation so much about so many different things, and the undertones of what it actually means is always the problem, the motivation behind it, the politics behind it. And at the end of the day, at the core of the end of the day, you're trying to tell people, women specifically, what they can do with their bodies, and it's wrong. And the question always remains when it comes to government involvement is when is too much, when is too far. And the problem, again, to your point, is depending on who's on what side of the pendulum is which way the argument's going to go. And at the end of the day, there should be some regulation for a lot of these things, but it should be up to the people. But I don't know.
I hear that. I hear that argument, and I get it, right? But I would say that the difference in a vaccine, be it for COVID, mumps, whatever, right,
The flu.
is whatever vaccine we're talking about. We're talking about medication that essentially is not just for you, it's for the community at large, right? Because we're living through, to this day, what happens when you allow a virus to run rampant through a society. You know what I mean? This a pregnancy, making someone have a child, I don't think that the consequences are like a one-to-one comparison in that sense of like, my body, my choice.
The thing about it is, though, even with the vaccine, people can make the argument to say this vaccine doesn't prevent COVID. It's really my safety net. Like if I choose to die and have bad side effects from it, it's my choice.
Mhm.
And you really can argue down. You can argue the sciences. You can talk about it, but really at the end of the day, if that person wants to be in a hospital bed, knowing that science tells you, hey, this will minimize the risk of you dying from COVID, it's their choice, and we've seen it happen. And what have we said? Good riddance. I haven't said that.
Right.
Y'all
And
have.
I think that people, I guess what I'm saying is that people for a vaccine make a kind of a greater good argument, right? And I think that when you talk about reproductive rights, abortion, family planning, etc., I guess I'm not necessarily seeing the greater good of making someone else have a child. And people will say stuff like, "What if that kid who is the born from this rape is the person that solves climate change?" And it's like,
Yeah.
like we can't be doing this kind of what
Cures
if,
cancer.
That's
right?
wild.
You know what I mean?
But then you
But
have the people. We're playing devil's advocate, but then you have the people that say, okay, well, for the record, we all support abortion rights, but you have the people that say, what if this is the fourth, fifth one, and all this other craziness. I don't know, man. It's nasty.
right.
It's
Or
nasty.
And when we talked about this before, that's why I said, and I always come back to, even if it is the fourth or fifth one, like it's none of your concern. You know what I mean? This person who got pregnant because of whatever reason, whether it was a rape, an incest, one night stand, husband and wife, for whatever it is, they don't want another child at the end of the day. You know what I mean? And like we can't, I feel like we can't live in a society that says you have to have children when you don't want them. And then also that same society says, and we will give you no help for said child. We make you have it, and we ain't gonna help you at all when you're struggling. Those two things can't go together. And I saw somebody who made this point on I think it was MSNBC, that right now, or not right now, but in June, when this decision comes out from the Supreme Court, women in America will have equal abortion rights to women in Afghanistan. And if you think that that's okay, I think that that's the problem.
well, maybe we'll get better turnouts at the voting polls, right?
I doubt it. And
I mean, for
I doubt
women.
it only because, and I don't want to go long here. I see we're on time. So I know EJ's watching the clock, but I doubt it for the point that EJ has made rightly and consistently is that white women who this largely won't affect, right? They're gonna be okay with this. They're not gonna go out and say, you know what, we got to vote for other people who are gonna, get rid of this shit or whatever.
And we know that why? Because religiously, economically, socially, this aligns more what they think of, what they accept. I can have 4 babies because this is traditionally what my family supported. This is what my family can afford. I'm okay with this.
We'll figure it out. Yeah. They'll figure it out. They can have 4, they can have 5, they can have 6. They'll be all right. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's weird, man. This is just weird times that we're living through, and this is again. I'll always go back to the fact of we have politicians who ask for forgiveness, and we have politicians who ask for permission. And sometimes you got to ask for forgiveness, lay your dick on the line, and deal with the forgiveness, like Trump. Granted, we all hate Trump. We hated him as a president, and don't think that he belonged there. But there's times where if you think things are going to benefit certain people or certain group of people, you deal with it. You deal with the consequences. Oh, they're going to sue us. Okay, well, Trump said when they're going to sue us, sue me, motherfucker. Oh, they're going to take us to court. Oh, I might go to jail. You know what happened when Biden got in office? I'm not going to put him in jail. It wouldn't be right. He's a president. But Biden, nah, I can't do that because that's not ethically correct. Get some balls,
Yeah.
Biden.
What a way to end the show. On that note, VP, can you do the honors for us, brother?
Yeah, as always, we definitely appreciate everybody who came through and rock with us this Sunday morning / afternoon. For those who listen live, we definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your Sunday to join us. For those who will listen once the podcast posts, we appreciate that time too. While you're there, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and follow. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Help us grow the audience. You can find us on any podcasting platform. Just search Castworthy. You can also find any of our social media by searching at Castworthy. On Instagram, it's at Castworthy_podcast. While you're there, also leave us a like, comment, or share. If you don't like the show, press the dislike button twice. That really shows those algorithms how much you hate us. So go ahead and do that. And yeah, again, we appreciate it. Just a quick comment while as a point of personal privilege, since I got the mic, just to let Steve know this week, Senator Raphael Warnock and Elizabeth Warren asked Joe Biden to delay his decision on student loan forgiveness so they can have one more chance to lobby him to go full 50 on student loan forgiveness, which sounds to me like he's made a decision to go less than 50. We'll see. The average person student loan debt has $37,014 student loan debt. So we'll see if he goes somewhere around the average or just 10K or full 50, watch this space, as I like to say. And with that being said, we will see you on the next episode. We're out. We love you. Peace.